illusion? I resent reach! What a loyal fan!
You saw that correctly. 15 Ablooms from Arya in one stun rotation, with no stun pauses and no stun decay modifiers. Okay, Vesper does have a 3-second longer stun duration than most bosses, but conveniently, not only is Vesper Arya's best boss, but this 15-second stun duration allows her to simulate Nangong Yu-esque combos before her release. Nangong provides a 3-second stun pause debuff, making this combo viable on all normal stun duration bosses next update. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This combo does have quite a bit of tech to it that may not seem obvious at first glance. So, what is that tech? And what else is Arya capable of that may not seem obvious? Well, I hope to explain that all here. Quick disclaimer though, the combos in this video will require Suna to perform due to her ability to reactivate additional Leifa veils, as well as something else I'll get into later. Although Suna is not required for Arya to score more than required for Deadly Assault, she does have a notable lack of strong teammate options currently, especially before Nangong's release, so keep that in mind if you're wanting to push scores. If you're watching this, I assume you already know the basics of how Arya works, but a quick summary for those who don't. Arya generates phantom power from specific attacks. When she has 2 or more, she can consume 2 of it to bounce on the enemy, triggering an Abloom. She can hold up to 8 phantom power, allowing for up to 4 jumps at a time, with her ultimate granting a separate resource allowing for an extra 3. These Ablooms get an additional 1.5 times multiplier when hitting a stunned enemy, meaning we want to min-max how many Ablooms can fit into a single stun rotation. TLDR, gain phantom power, stun enemy, bounce on a crazy style. Simple, right? Well, to begin with our first tech, you technically aren't limited to 4 bounces at once. Arya's first EX special works a bit interestingly, generating 3 phantom power when the animation ends at any point after the first multi-hit lands. Because of this weird behavior, if you're already capped out on phantom power and use Arya's EX special, then begin bouncing immediately, she actually gains the phantom power mid-bounce, allowing for 5 bounces before needing to recharge. Due to each bounce only requiring 2, she can only overstack a maximum of 2 phantom power, but this means we can start a 5 bounce combo with only 7 out of 8 stacks, as the third stack goes into the meter as normal, while the other 2 are overstacked. Although you can do this with her second EX special, the animation is a bit longer than her first, and can't be cast on its own anyway. The first multi-hit is also notably later in the animation, which makes it inefficient for another technique I'll touch on later. In terms of utilizing this, we can get enemy to around 97% days, and use Arya's EX special into the stun window, immediately starting with 5 bounces. But what do we do from there? A chain attack grants 4 phantom power, and as soon as Ether Veil does as well, but Suna's EX special is quite slow. We can swap to our third agent during the EX special to trigger stun a bit quicker, but can we shave any extra time off that? As a matter of fact, you can. Welcome to Wobbling. For those familiar with Smash Melee, Wobbling is a tech exclusive to Ice Climbers, causing the player to desync Nana and Popo's animations, allowing for different attacks to be used at the same time. Coincidentally, Suna and Arya have a similar interaction with Arya's teamwork attack. While bouncing, switching to Suna usually locks your inputs until she's safely on the ground, meaning you can't EX special on her until Arya's finished her bounce. In between each bounce, the game despawns and respawns Suna in case the next bounce happens to not be a teamwork attack. As a result, this creates a small gap in Arya's rotation where Suna is not present, but Arya has already started her next bounce. In this gap, we can swap to Suna free of charge, while Arya performs an entire bounce while not the active character. This saves a large amount of time in Arya's stun rotation, as we don't need to wait for Suna to land, nor wait for Arya to finish all of her bounces, and can get one off without any time lost. When combined with what we discussed earlier, we can start bouncing on Arya, wobble to Suna during the downtime before the last bounce, Suna's second EX special, and immediately swap to use her to cast a special attack. Now, Arya gains 4 phantom power from a chain attack, and an additional 4 from the Suna EX that just finished casting mid-chain. Look how much time that saved compared to waiting to trigger the chain window with Suna herself. Note that Yuzuha is not required, just a really fast heavy attack to start the chain window. For example, Nicole's neutral dash, or conveniently, Nangong Yu's first hold basic will do just fine. Okay, so now we can do another 4 bounces. But what then? Chain attack into ultimate for another 8 fandom plus 3 extra bounces? No, there's not enough time for that unfortunately. However, remember what I said earlier about her EX special? It generates 3 Phantom Power when the animation ends at any point after the first multi-hit lands. I chose these words very carefully, because if you use Arya's EX special and immediately ultimate just as it hits an enemy, Arya will gain the 3 additional bounces from her ultimate, 4 Phantom Power from her ultimate's Ether Veil, and 3 Phantom Power from the EX special, even though the EX special barely did anything. You might think using the ultimate mid-stun is a waste of time, but it's actually the only way this combo is possible, as we need to overstack with the EX special to start the stun with one more Abloom than usual, which isn't possible unless we were to use the EX special mid-stun instead. In fact, using the EX special mid-stun ends up taking more time than her ultimate does, due to Arya's delayed heavy attack on her ultimate, allowing her to start bouncing mid-chain attack tree. Congratulations! If you were following along, you now have 6 extra Ablooms to finish off the combo, for a total of 14 Ablooms in one stun. Wait, 14? I thought you said 15 at the start of the video. I did. And just starting the stun a little differently is the difference between 14 and 15. However, it may not always be too practical to pull off. Instead of starting the stun with Arya's EX special, we can instead use her EX special to overstack, and start the stun with the first bounce from her hold basic. The multi-hit of the bounce triggering stun also triggers Abloom, but the stun starts ever so slightly before, resulting in an immediate Abloom at the start of stun. From there, finish the first 5 bounces, bubble swap, chain attack into 4 more bounces, cancel her EX with her ultimate, cancel the chain trigger, and perform 6 more bounces from there. Bam! 15 Ablooms. Due to the precise days needed to start with her hold basic, I don't recommend always expecting to get 15 Ablooms. However, if you try going for the setup each time, you should almost always have plenty of time to achieve 14. Stun with the EX special too early, you can do the 14 Abloom combo and have a 15th out of stun at the end. Stun with the first hold basic, congratulations, you can do the 15 Abloom combo. Miss the stun with both and stun on the second hold basic, you can again do the 14 Abloom combo, you just move the 15th out of stun Abloom to the start instead. Regardless of if you manage to get 15 Ablooms or not, this setup makes going for 14 Ablooms a lot easier. Considering most other combo guides I saw only mentioned 13 being possible on Vesper with her ultimate, I'm happy to improve on that count. Do note that having access to a fast chain attack on your third character is very crucial for making Wobbling a bigger time save. In Arya's most popular pre-Nangong team, Yuzuha may not always have her special attack available, as she tends to run extra energy regen from her W engine. You can still use her EX special to trigger stun instead, but it will usually result in losing 1 Abloom from your intended combo. Alternatively for Yuzuha, her Aftershock also counts as a heavy attack. Although not guaranteed to be active exactly when you need it, if it is, you can swap to her and trigger the chain window without needing any energy at all. Again, this thankfully isn't a problem with Nangong, as her first hold basic is an accessible fast heavy attack regardless. Now, putting all that together, we have 3 combos, with each getting an additional Abloom over the previous. 13 Ablooms will usually happen if you don't have a fast heavy attack as mentioned previously, or aren't too fast on min-maxing as hard on swap timings. Start the stun with Arya's EX special, bounce 5 times, and wobble to Suna for a second EX special. You can either EX special on Yuzuha here, or just wait on Suna to finish her EX. From here, Arya chain attack, bounce 4 times, EX special, and immediately cancel with ultimate. Finally, finish off with 6 more bounces, although the final 2 will most likely land outside of stun. There are easier combos that result in the same amount, but beginning to learn tech such as wobbling with Suna will make the transition to stronger combos much easier. For 14 Ablooms, we can do the same thing, just making sure to re-trigger the chain window sooner with a faster heavy attack. Start with Arya's EX special, bounce 5 times, wobble to Suna for a second EX special, and then immediately trigger the chain window with Yuzuha. And again, Arya chain, bounce 4 times, EX first hit into ultimate, and then finally 6 bounces, with one of them landing outside of stun. This is usually my go-to combo, as 15 Ablooms tends to be a little bit tough at times. Finally, the 15 Abloom combo has the exact same inputs as the 14 Abloom combo, except that the start is slightly different. Use Arya's EX special before stun, and start the stun with the first hold basic. Bounce 4 more times, wobble to Suna for her second EX special, and immediately trigger the chain window with Yuzuha. Arya chain, bounce 4 times, EX first hit into ultimate, ending with 6 bounces. Don't worry if you can't always get this, but going for it will almost always guarantee 14 Ablooms. Hold on. Are there any options for combos if you don't have enough decibels on Arya? As a matter of fact, there are, and there's quite a bit of room for error too. As we can't use Arya's ultimate to cancel her EX special with stun, we'll instead make use of 2 wobble swaps and double chain on Arya for fandom power. Just like before, start with Arya's EX special, bounce 5 times, wobble to Suna for her second EX special, then immediately trigger the chain window with Yuzuha. Arya chain, bounce 4 times, instead of EX, wobble swap to Suna and hold her EX special, swapping out as she begins the animation for the second EX, and trigger chain with Yuzuha again. Arya's second chain, and bounce 4 more times. It's a bit more technical than the ultimate combo due to requiring 2 wobbles, but once you get the hang of the swap timing, it is very consistent. I did try starting stun with hold basic to try squeezing out a 14th Abloom without her ultimate. Unfortunately, despite having a good amount of time left, it's not quite enough for an EX special for 1 more bounce. However, I feel it's important to show how much time there is left in case someone can rat a crazy good 14 Abloom combo without ultimate. When Nangong comes, there'll be more than enough time on Vesper to get it, but 18-second stuns don't massively increase Arya's damage, as she's already running low on resources as is by the end of the ultimate combo. If you're fighting older bosses, such as Fiend or Notorious Butcher without Nangong, then the enemy's base stun duration is fixed to 12 seconds. In these scenarios, the best I was able to get with and without her ultimate is 12 and 11 Ablooms respectively. Currently, the only 12 Abloom combo I was able to find relies on the same technique as the previous 15 Abloom combo, triggering stun with the first hold basic. However, due to the shorter stun duration, it actually doesn't enter the stun window in the EX special. Instead, using ultimate at around 97% days so the hold basic can trigger instead. We then bounce on Arya 7 times, wobble to Suna for the second EX special and trigger the chain window with Yuzuha. Arya chain, bounce 4 times, and trigger the chain window at some point during the bounces. Cancel the chain window and use Arya's EX special for 1 more bounce. There's no specific timing on the chain trigger, as we only want it for the extra second of stun time granted by a stun recal. I just prefer to do it on the 4th bounce so I can mash EX special during the chain window. Thankfully, starting the stun with ultimate instead only loses out on 1 Abloom, but will make it slightly tighter to execute due to overlapping a stun recalc. If you don't know what a stun recalc is, I'll leave a Google Doc in the comments for a guide all on stun mechanics as it's a bit complicated. But just know we lose about 1 second of our time in stun with this scenario. 11 Ablooms thankfully can also be done without Arya's ultimate, and does not require starting the stun with her hold basic. Start with Arya's EX special, bounce 5 times, wobble into Suna for her second EX special and trigger the chain window with Yuzuha. Arya chain, bounce 4 times, and instead of wobble swapping again, switch straight to Yuzuha and trigger chain a second time. Arya's second chain, followed by 2 more bounces. As much as I tried, I was unable to use Suna's hold EX to re-trigger chain window quick enough to get a 12th Abloom without her ultimate, despite having the time for 1 more bounce if Arya just had 2 more fandom power, even if I started stun with her hold basic. Maybe it's possible with some extremely good execution, or even with Nicole because her neutral dash attack is extremely fast, but that would be very tight. Feel free to send me footage if you do manage to get 12 Ablooms on a 12-second stun without her ultimate though. I'd love to see it. And finally, it's not useful for the stun combo itself, but I wanted to give a quick mention to a line in Arya's dash attack. If activated during a basic attack chain, then the action does not reset the basic attack count. Her dash attack is pretty fast, while her second and third basic attacks are pretty slow. What the skill doesn't tell you is that interrupting her basic attack combo with a dash attack instead skips to the next basic attack in the combo. As a result, if we basic 1 and immediately dash attack as we activate her basic 2, we can skip straight to basic 3. Since we can dash attack twice in quick succession, this can be used to skip her basic 2 and 3, getting to her basic 4 much faster for some quicker fandom power generation for no cost. And that's about everything I wanted to cover. I've been enjoying Arya's gameplay a lot, and I'm so looking forward to be able to do Nangong combos once she releases. This is my first video, so I'm no expert at these whatsoever, but I hope you enjoyed it, or at least learned something new. If you did, feel free to follow. I have more things planned that no one's documented yet, and I'm just not sure when I'm going to get around to recording them, but hopefully soon. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all next time.